She's there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Risa.
This off.
That's her name, Risa?
Yeah.
Hi, Risa. No answer. Oh, yeah, I hear her. Okay, all right. So, welcome everyone. I know you've been on a long journey. This is the end. Well, close to the end. I think you have one more class from Pendo. Or he made up for his class. He made up? The Checkley, yeah. He made up. Okay, all right. I'm only me? Oh my Lord. 1, 2, 3, 5 classes. Okay. And we have 2 modules to do.
So this, I guess send us a typo then. This would be module 6A, for asset management or after page 41. It's just saying module 5.
That's 5. This is.
But this saying 5 too. This saying 5. I just saying 5.
Yes, yeah, that's one percent.
This one.
Take that out. Take this out. What this here? Okay. All right, so module 5 talks about quite a bit of things. And then module 6 is where we go into more depth. So we have 5 classes. A lot of the stuff I'm going to give to you to read. And then if you have questions before you come to class, because we can't cover it all, but I can tell you that all of it will be on the exam. This is the heaviest section for the exam. The majority of the questions come from module 5 and module 6. Okay? So let's start with the Bahamian legal system. I don't want to bear too much on things that you know already. I prefer to spend more time on things that you don't know, so they can understand it more for when the examiners write the questions. Okay? So, everybody knows what the Bahamian legal system is, how it's structured. Yes? No? Maybe so?
Maybe so.
What is maybe so?
We're not sure.
Maybe English, Bahamian, I don't know. I'm not sure.
You ain't sure? Alright, so let's start. What's the highest court of the land? No.
Privy Council.
Privy Council.
People in England.
Said people in England. And below that?
Court of Appeal.
Uh-huh. And?
Supreme Court.
Uh-huh. And?
Magistrate Court.
Uh-huh. And? Yes, there's many after that. Let's go.
Magistrate Court. What about, like, is juvenile panel and stuff like that?
Yes. The juvenile court, the tribunal,
Right.
you have gun court. What other courts you have?
Drunk court.
Traffic court. Traffic court, all of those. That's the judicial system. Now, when you speak about the legal system of the Bahamas, where did we get our laws from?
English.
English common law. So the Bahamas follows the English common law system. And so that means that our laws come from different sources. Where did we get our laws from? The laws we have today. One is from England, but where did it really come from? How do we make our laws?
Based on decisions that,
On the Constitution.
from decisions on cases.
Yeah, okay. So we have common law, which is based on precedents, which means from other courts within the Commonwealth jurisdiction. Where else do we get our law from? I heard some. Don't be quiet. It could be right, it could be wrong.
Customs.
Customs. He said it already. From the Constitution, we build our laws.
understand that.
Equity?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Equity in law means being fair,
Oh, okay,
being fair and just.
Okay.
That's what this word means.
okay, in this context.
Yes. When you speak about equity in law,
Mhm.
it's about being fair and being just.
So Ms. Archer,
Mm-hmm.
so from the magistrate court, are you right, the juvenile court and all that, that's like on the same level as magistrate, or that's underneath?
Not necessarily, because the tribunal, if there is an appeal from the tribunal court, it doesn't go to the magistrate court. It goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. But these are just other courts.
And what's the last TC stand for? You said county court.
Traffic.
Traffic court, yeah.
Okay.
And then you have CC. You know that one, right? The coroner's court.
Yes.
Yeah, all those small courts. Okay, and we also get our laws from treaties. Because you know, whenever the Minister of Foreign Affairs goes abroad and he signs a treaty, based on that treaty, he has to come back and enact legislation. And so we have, based on our laws, we have acts and we have regulations. So when we speak about the Court of Appeal, what's the structure of the Court of Appeal? Who's in charge?
Chief Justice.
And who else?
Two other judges and one foreign judge who's non-resident or something.
Why do we need a foreign judge? Why is it key here to have a foreign judge?
I guess for fairness,
For fairness
independent.
and independence.
Independent opinion.
It gives you a balance. That is why, hold on, I put it here. That is why you see they are kind of reluctant to get rid of this.
The Privy Council.
Yes,
Mhm.
because they are far removed and they look at it according to the law and not according to feelings or emotions. So I know everybody always complain that they say the worst of the worst has not been seen yet. And everybody believes that the worst of the worst has happened yet. But what they look at the worst of the worst through all of the Commonwealth jurisdiction. Because we are a Commonwealth jurisdiction. So it's not just the Bahamas, but it's all jurisdictions. Anybody give me another Commonwealth country?
Barbados,
Who else?
Canada.
Canada. Who else?
Australia.
All those are Commonwealth jurisdictions. And so they look at it across the whole spectrum of Commonwealth countries. And so when you get a case that is decided above, that means that you have to follow those cases in terms of the ruling. But based on the circumstances, if you feel that there is a case that is coming from another Commonwealth jurisdiction, we said it is highly persuasive, which means you can use it in your case, but doesn't mean that the judge will accept it. He will consider it based on the facts. But because we are a part of the Commonwealth, other decisions coming from a Commonwealth country is persuasive. But any decision that comes from the Privy Council is binding on all of these courts.
They're talking about doing away with the Privy Council for us.
Yes, they want to use the Caribbean Court of Justice,
Oh, okay.
because that's what the other Caribbean countries are doing. Their argument is that a Caribbean Court of Justice understands the customs and the practices of the Caribbean. And we use them as our highest court of the land because they know the nature of the people within the Caribbean.
Where's that located? Or there's no central location for that?
I think it may be in Guyana. Oh, Guyana has some very good judges. Some of the judges have been on the highest courts in the United States Supreme Court.
You're saying that's so far? That's so far.
Yeah, but you don't have to go there. You just send the documents there. You don't physically go there. Yeah. But as you can see, this is entrenched in law.
What is CC again?
Coroner's Court.
Coroner's Court.
So, let me ask you a question before we go further. What do you hope to achieve from getting this certification? Don't all answer at once.
I want to be able to hopefully at some point have clients who I can sit with and give them a financial roadmap based on what their needs are,
Okay.
either from an advice point of view or just from a guidance.
Okay. What about
Personal
you?
gain,
Personal gain.
to put all these things into practice for myself. And
Okay.
then transfer that over to potential clients.
All right.
Same thing, and then. for
Which one? Same thing for which one?
It's CB hours, yeah, it's just for, to
Okay.
be able, for personal gain.
What? It's not the same thing.
All
What about
about-
you?
all
Personal
about
gain.
the money.
For employment after,
Later down.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So I asked that because based on the modules so far, you learned what? First module was what?
The balance sheet.
Ratios and stuff like
Cash
that.
flows.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how can you use that?
Learning how to read financial statements.
Learning how to read financial statements. So you'll be able to give advice to small
Understanding.
companies and understanding it.
Yeah.
Second module was on?
Communication, customer communication.
Okay. And you could use that also. And the third one was?
Risk.
Just risk. Okay.
Treating risk.
And the fourth one?
Investment.
Investments. Okay. And investment from what aspect?
Foreign markets, local markets.
Time value of money.
Mm-hmm.
Investments in your funds, your wealth, how do you.
Okay.
Advice.
So in this module here, we're looking at the Bahamian aspect of things. And when we go into module 6, we're going to get even more personal. Because when we do how to write a will, you will learn it for yourself and also how you can advise others. We'll also talk about pension planning, how to plan for retirement. And then also in module 6, we're going to look at the products that the Bahamas offers. So it depends on who you're advising. You'll be able to tell them these are what we offer. Okay? So in this module here, we start with judicial system, and then we're going to move into other things that you need to know, either for yourself or when you advise. And I always tell students with this, you can advise anybody, a family member, if you decide to do your own business, something on the side, it's all inclusive. Because when you advise somebody, you doesn't just advise them on the business, you advise them about their life. This is what you need to do to prepare for the future. Okay? Yes, Juju.
I want to distract me. I want to give you that same question.
What's that?
What's your relation to financial planning?
My relation to financial planning, I'm a banker and an attorney. That's good enough? Okay. So that help you, right? It gives you a better look at what it is all about? Okay. So whenever I have notes here, but whenever I lecture, I make it practical. You read, but I make it practical. Because two things. One, there's a test, and number two, you're able to take this out of here and use it. So it's twofold. You know the examiner's gonna look for what's examinable in the notes. That's for you to do. My job is to make sure at the end of the day, when you finish reading this, how can I use it to my advantage? That's what I want you to gain out of this. And plus pass the exam, because I don't like failures. All right? So that's my brief on the legal system. The notes are there, you can read it.
Okay.
Okay? So let's look, there are different types of businesses you can go into. What are they? Okay, and there are advantages and disadvantages for each one. So let's start with the first one, sole. What's the advantage?
Advantage, oh boy, what is it?
You're your own boss, and nobody else stands to do, it's all on you.
So, sole proprietorship, you're your own boss. What else?
Final decision is yours.
You make your own decisions. What else?
You get to pay yourself.
You can pay yourself.
Oh, you're taking all the risk.
What else?
Take all the risk.
You take all the risk. What else? You have to raise all the capital yourself. Anything else?
Once you're there, that's it.
Hmm?
Once you're there, that's it.
Yep.
This is the risk.
That's the end. Now, if you establish a partnership, what's the advantages?
You share the.
You share the risk.
Share the risk, yeah.
And you share the responsibility.
You share resources. You share all of the responsibilities. But what's the disadvantage?
Might be hard to come to a decision.
Yes.
Decision
Mm-hmm.
Partners can get you in trouble.
Yes. Um. Anything else? What happens if one partner dies?
You have to take on all the other.
It's not a partnership anymore.
It's not a partnership anymore.
What if you get like 3 partners?
It depends on if you have a partnership agreement. Because agreement can say on the death of one, it's dissolved. Or it could say on the death of one, what happens to that person's contribution? Company. What's the advantages? Hmm?
Its own entity.
You can limit your liability.
Okay. It's a separate legal entity. Mm-hmm. What else?
You get to public capital. Capital could be raised from outsiders.
Yeah. Okay.
You can issue shares.
You could raise capital, or you could go to the public. What advantage you have?
The death of, all the
It continues after death. What else? What's the disadvantages? Cost more. What else?
Regulation and policies and.
Yes, you have regulatory requirements. Anything else? If you form a company?
So to report to the board and your shareholders.
Yeah, decisions are made by the board.
By the board.
And not by you.
With a partnership, depending on I mean not the partnership, company depending on, like two persons, let's say if it's 3 persons who own the company, can the 2 persons, like pass a resolution and take somebody off? Something like that.
What do you mean?
Gang,
I
think she's talking about
I think it depends on the
appointing the board.
percentage.
Appointment,
Yeah, like
appointment of the
majority
board
vote,
members.
yes.
The first thing is when you form a company, the shareholders pass a shareholders agreement. And in that agreement, they establish how the board will be structured.
Oh, okay, so how?
And once that shareholders agreement goes to the board, then the board establishes itself. So, unless the shareholders are director, then I can see that. But if it's between the 3 of us being shareholders and now I want to remove him as a shareholder, then that means that you have to buy him out. Yeah. Because that's a shareholder.
So you can't just pass a resolution that would take them?
No, he has shares. He's a shareholder.
But
You
can
do
take
a
somebody off the
resolution,
board.
take
You
the
take
board
somebody off the board by resolution.
Oh, okay.
That's the difference. Oh, she was off it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So if you were to give advice, what would you advise someone to get? Should they stay as a sole proprietor, which means doing a trading arts company, or would you tell them to form a company or a partnership?
It depends, yeah.
Depends on what they try to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know what the client wants.
In most
What are you looking
instances,
for?
they probably still gotta, establish a company. I mean, it's more expensive to establish, however, it's more secure.
When you say secure, what do you mean?
Like, with the company,
Liabilities.
yeah, the liabilities and the, like, coming after you, like, assets and all of that. Let's say a legal matter arises, for sole ownership and partnership, they could come after you, but when it's a company, because it's a separate entity, even with companies, like you said, with a sole ownership, once you die, the company dissolves, but at least that way, the company can live on.
Mm-hmm. So it all depends. Even though you say it depends on the person, you have to look at one. What is the person trying to achieve? Is he forming this company for his children? Then it can't be a sole proprietorship. Is he doing this for protection? He has lots of assets. Then he needs a company. You see what I mean? Irregardless of the cost, is what's in the best interest of the client.
But you can't like legally, let's say I'm a sole proprietor. Like let's say like in my will, I can't sign over the business to children and family. Is that possible?
As a sole proprietor,
Yeah. Transfer ownership over. No?
it's a trading house, so it actually belongs to you. It's a trading house.
And you transfer the assets and the.
You
the
transfer
stuff
the
in
assets.
the business, but not the business itself. They'll have to then open up their own, get their own business license in their own name and
Right, to
continue
do,
on.
right, to continue on. You see where the difficulty comes?
Mhm.
Even though the trading as sole proprietor is cheaper, because you can just go register with NID, put your name in, get started, open your account, get your Department of Environmental Health document and go. You have to look at, is it in the best interest for that client for the future? That's what you have to look at. It is costly, this is gonna cost quite a bit to incorporate the company and to also pay for all the statutory filings. And to be on time so there's no penalty. But you have to look at it in the long run. Would it be in the best interest of your client to advise them to incorporate a company or to stay as a trading house?
Those LLCs or LLPs, how are they different from, say, a company? Or is that more, are you distancing yourself more from the company by
An
forming?
LLC,
Yeah,
a limited liability company,
yes.
is only with regard to the actual liability itself. Because you can actually do a company that's only have guarantees. You don't actually put no cash in it. So you can incorporate the company, and in the event the company gets into trouble, then you've given a guarantee that this is the amount that I will pay towards your liabilities. Or you could have the company with shares and with liability. You could do it different ways.
But an LLC or LLP is still in a corporation.
Mm-hmm. So those are the things, even though you're saying like this would be easier, you gotta look at it, and death is something that happens at a snap of a finger.
This question may not be related, but in Delaware, in the US,
Mm-hmm.
how is Delaware different from all the other United States in terms of their banking and stuff?
Delaware is an offshore center, like the Bahamas, within the United States. So if you are a foreigner, you can go to the United States and incorporate a company in Delaware, as long as you do not operate within the bounds of the United States. I think they have 3 or 4 states that are like that. So they're in competition with us.
Delaware,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
okay, now it makes sense.
They're tax free.
Oh, okay,
You could be a vacation home in the
there you go.
You need to do what?
vacation home over there.
Oh, I don't know if you could afford it.
It's way up there. Too cold.
All right. So you understand how to use this in terms of when you're advising a client. So if I have some students before who after they left this, they started their own company in terms of giving advice to people. So if you're going to take this route and some of the things you learn in these 2 modules, then you would need to have a relationship with an attorney to reduce your costs in order to incorporate a company. And as you can see later when we talk about trust, you may want to advise a client that guess what? I think the best thing for you will do to establish a trust. Everybody know what a trust is and how trust works. But when we get there, that's later down. But that's another tool. So first we look at a company. So if someone has a business, you may want to do it like this. Someone may just have a bunch of assets and they want to put it in a company. And you've heard about a company being a holding company, which means that you put all the assets under the company and then it's just holding it. Because you separate yourself from the company. But bear in mind that that does not mean that the company cannot be sued for the assets that are within the company. Not because you put it there doesn't mean that, okay, it's separate from me. The company can still be sued. If it can be proven that you put the funds underneath or in the company to defraud, then the courts will take the assets from the company. So that's another reason you have to advise people. You cannot incorporate a company in order to defraud. Because the courts will not say you and the company are separate. Yes. Mhm. Or from creditors.
With doing that, you can basically stall the process of the court getting to you, yes.
When you say stall, you mean make it longer?
I know a guy.
Yeah, you makes it longer, but but if you are able to prove
Mhm.
that the purpose that you established the company was to defraud, that they will rule that the assets are gained. But you have to prove it. But like she said, they do it also in divorce. But the courts will only take that route when it's a company if the ex-wife doesn't have another remedy. If she has another remedy where she can get funds from her spouse, her ex-spouse, they will not take that route and actually go to the company, because they're not this, the ex-husband and the company are not one and the same. So let's talk about residency. This is another area you can go into. You have a lot of people who come into the country, they come as tourists. You see them on Bay Street, walking up and down, they go to the beach. They ask a lot of questions. Just like how when you go to the registrar, you see attorneys standing outside waiting to do affidavits. People, you can actually be like a tourist on the beach with your straw hat on, and you can actually give advice to tourists who want to come here and live. A lot of people, when you pass them and listen, they want to know, what do I have to do to live here? Believe it or not, they're always asking that on Bay Street. They've come to paradise and they want to know, what do I have to do to live here? Always. And I always find that this is a good area for people to get into. If you can set this up, again, with a lawyer and a real estate agent. And you can make money. Why your face looks so? You thinking it?
Yeah.
All right, so we have in the Bahamas accelerated consideration, $1.5 million and above. I could tell you now that in other countries around the world, in Europe, they are all doing the same thing. Remember, as an offshore center, they were always saying people in the Caribbean and offshore centers were just selling passports, that's what they call it. Now they've realized that this is a good way to bring in investors. And so they have the same accelerated residency, just like we have in the Bahamas and Barbados and all the rest of the countries. And they invite them to come in, buy a home, and they give them a lower tax break.
So just $1.5 million.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying now. If you know someone who's in real estate, right? You already have your lawyer friend on the side. So far, you know, they can do a partnership agreement for you if you want it. They can incorporate a company for you if you need that. And now, you know that you can also offer services for people who wish to emigrate here to the Bahamas.
What is the cost range, for example, establishing a company for a sole proprietorship versus a company or versus a partnership?
Only one company there.
Okay,
Sole proprietorship,
right,
you don't incorporate that.
okay,
That's trading us.
okay,
Partnership, is a partnership agreement. Agreement between two people. There's either 50-50 or three people.
but I mean,
50, 60,
but
40.
even so.
That's just a contract.
Don't need a lawyer for that,
You can draw it up yourself if you want, depends on what you put in it.
but I'm saying if I want to go to a lawyer, I mean,
You go to the incorporated company,
okay, but what kind of money is it?
$1,500.
And that's everything?
I had a question similar to him, like,
It
I
depends.
guess on a scale of 1 to 10.
How
how
complex
hard
it's
is it
going to be.
incorporate?
But you start from the 1,500.
Yeah, so like, what's the complexity of incorporating a company here in the Bahamas on a scale of 1 to 10?
No, it's not much. The template is the same. Yeah, the template is the same for everyone. So it's not that difficult. It's just the time to put it in and get it done and stamp and then go from there. It's meeting all the regulatory requirements after that. because you have to meet the requirements under the act itself. So, if you incorporate a company, you can incorporate it under what? The Companies Act or under the IBC Act. And the requirements are different under each one. Now, if you incorporate a company and the business of that company is regulated, then not only do you have to meet the requirements underneath the act, which pertains to the Registrar General, but you also have to meet the requirements of the regulator. Understand what I mean? So if you go in money lending service business, you can incorporate under the Companies Act, but then you also have to meet the requirements under the Securities Commission, under their rules. No. So if you wanted to become a financial corporate service provider, which is another area you can go into when you finish this, again, you incorporate your company under the Companies Act. Using that service, you will be incorporating IBCs. And again, you have to follow the rules of the Securities Commission. You have to be licensed by them. You need a compliance officer. You need a lot of stuff. To be a financial corporate service. If you want to provide in your company corporate service to your clients, you have to be incorporated, licensed, and regulated.
MLRO.
MLRO, yeah, compliance officer, MLRO.
The IBC stands for?
International Business Company. So persons who wish to reside in the Bahamas on an annual basis may qualify under one of the 4 categories, subject to formal application and approval. Now I can tell you that the immigration has just gone electronic. So a lot of people who had applications to be delivered a couple of weeks ago had to take them back and went into the new format. So what I've outlined to you below is the fees, and the fees have also gone up. So permit is valid up to 5 years. An application can be made for permanent residence or citizenship after 5 years or more of marriage. The spouse or dependent of a permit holder, you get an application along with a copy of the sponsor's work permit, permit to reside, certificate of permanent residency, or other lawful authority to reside in the Bahamas must be included. In some jurisdiction they have between, I think Thailand has 6 categories of visitors. You come visit, and each one have a different time period. Okay, each one has a different time period. So the categories of visitors. That's different from the permanent residency when you buy a home. So all of that is attract people to come to their jurisdiction. Non-Bahamians who own second homes in the Bahamas may apply to the Director of Immigration for an annual homeowner's residence card. And this card is renewable annually and entitles the owner, the spouse, and any minor child or children endorsed on the card when traveling with the owner. And other countries have the same thing. When you purchase a home from the locals, they give you a card. And in some churches, the card have different colors. And the colors depends on whether or not the home you have is a home you're going to keep or is a home that you're just renting. So you see, as we move and we learn more from the other jurisdictions around the world, then we make the changes. Because otherwise we get left behind and people begin to abuse the system. Work permits. Bahamas government principle is that no expat may be offered a position that is suitably qualified for a Bahamian to fill. That's not smiling. The problem I have with Bahamians is if you do not go and register at the Department of Labor, then you don't have a leg to stand on. You have to register so that they know you have the skills. Now, the tricky thing about it is, when they bring in someone, they advertise. And they may advertise for more than is required.
fictitious things like,
all fictitious
have
stuff.
to be fluent in
Portuguese.
Right.
Portuguese.
But then it's up to the people who work in the institution that at immigration know that this job does not require those skill sets. That part doesn't happen.
Yeah, because I mean, some of these guys come in and they have to be trained.
Yeah, but you all train them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't pick up the phone and call immigration and say, this was the ad was in the paper, this is the person doing this job, this is what the job entails. It is not required. Trust me, in other countries, they pick up the phone, immigration comes to the job, put them in the bus, and take them to the airport. It is not a joke. I've seen them do it. Brought someone in, the person was on the job, the people call immigration, and they don't call immigration once a year. They call an immigration every day. This person came in here to do this job, but we have 4 people doing it, but they wanted this one here. They come and take them, and they're gone. But we sit back.
But isn't it a stipulation when they do bring them in, they say that they're supposed to understudy, a Bahamian's supposed to understudy with them to learn within a
Yeah, but that
number of
doesn't happen
years at
either.
all.
Again, because
some of
we
them are here for
sit
like
back
20
and we
years.
say nothing. I'm telling you, other countries in the Caribbean do not allow it. Seriously, they do not allow it.
So you
Yeah,
gotta,
but they shouldn't renew, they shouldn't, but immigration shouldn't renew, permit if they say, well, okay, this person's been here for 10 years, who did y'all get to train, where's the Bahamian that's training?
Yeah.
So why would they
But
keep
they can ask you
renewing?
that question. But
They
again,
keep
when they come to
renewing.
the job, you all say nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you all speak to them?
No.
You need to speak to them. I am seriously, in other countries, the staff will tell you, you know when you get your work permit and you go on the job in other countries in the Caribbean, and that work permit, when you get there and you say, morning, I'm so and so, I'm from the Bahamas, you're leaving on the 12th of November. Just like that. They didn't find that out before you get there. Trust me, on the 12th of November, you better be at that airport.
There's somebody call it.
Or somebody call it. No doubt about it. You have to be serious. These people are serious. You come there to do this job.
That's
Trust
what we
me.
need to do.
How you doing? You okay? I've been in one of those where I went, the people said you couldn't look at no documents. You could only observe to write a report. You know how many times those people passed? To make sure I was not looking at anything?
Wow.
And the people warn you, do not touch a single thing, because they will be here. That's how serious they are. You don't do it. So it's twofold. You have to tell them. If you want to see a change, you got to make that change. You have to force it.
But it also jeopardizes your job.
Exactly. And
It,
that's
je-
like,
it jeopardizes your job, but I think the message will hit home. We're not tolerating this anymore.
you gotta do it.
You have to do it.
But it jeopardizes
You
your
gotta call from
job,
the
and
payphone.
you got your mortgage and your children in college too.
They don't have to ask you your name.
No.
It's, I'm telling you, it's.
Yeah, but these countries, some of these countries are small like us, you know.
You know.
And some of them are smaller. They do it.
If you call it on your day off or something,
They do it.
you know, you call from
And they have no fear in doing it either.
When paid for that.
Seriously, they do it. With no fear. None whatsoever. But it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
It's a cultural thing. They protect their country.
their own.
Trust me, they protect.
None of them are.
That's what I'm saying. We fear losing our jobs. They don't. Because they say this is our land. They let you know when you reach.
Your job or your country.
Yeah. Because they say they have nowhere to go. This is ours. It's a different culture.
And everybody thinks like that.
And everybody
So
thinks
that's
that
why-
way.
That's why it works.
Everybody's on one
Yeah.
accord.
Everybody's on one
Everybody's on one
accord.
accord.
Mm-hmm.
So it
That's not the
works.
problem here. No, for sure.
Yeah, you all have to work on it.
People who own companies now, they come in the same way. So
Huh?
I say they came in that same way. Some of the people who own these companies now.
Mm-hmm.
People good to get a new CEO.
So an employer may obtain permits for longer periods than the standard 1 year in certain key personal or contracts. Each contract should relate to a specific post. A person holding a work permit may make application for a new one for his new employer, having been unsuccessful in recruiting a qualified Bahamian to fill the post. You smiling again.
I'm laughing.
Without having to leave the island. Again, I'm telling you, if you know someone is in your job and they're hiring someone. I know someone, but they said they were hiring someone and they said, oh, if I go to immigration, they can know it's me. I said, what do you have to lose? I said, because it's not your job. It's not even in your department, but you know it. Why would you just sit back and let it happen? They sit back and let it happen. That person actually became their boss and sat on top of them for 4 years. Made 6 times their salary. And then the person left. I said, you see what I'm telling you?
Have you ever reported somebody?
Who, me? Oh, yeah. Could do it.
Because you had a story a lot that.
You could do it. You see, the thing is, this is my country.
They don't
And if I don't think that you are qualified for the position and someone is, I let them know. And they will investigate. But you can't be afraid.
Some of the folks at immigration are the problem.
I was going to say the same thing. They might not even
No, I
investigate.
tell you
They're the problem all over the place, Bahamians.
Yeah.
No matter which job it is, there's some who are Bahamians.
You have instances where you have people in immigration whose kids' college education is paid for by
Mhm.
exactly.
Mhm.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you just have to know who to go to. That's another thing you have to learn. Who to go.
You know,
Well, it's obviously you don't know how the system works. Wrong person. Wrong person. So work permits were increased in 2018. For an assistant VP, it went to 15.5 or CEO. For dentists, casino managers, attorneys, consultants, it went to 12.5. For sous chef and wine stewards, it's 9,000. For barbers, assistant chefs, airline pilots, assistant housekeepers, 7.5. Consultant and physician is 6,250. And for bartenders and butlers and carpenters is 6,000. For teachers, 5,000. Housemen and head gardeners is 4. And for workplace for professionals, this is under scale 8. Janitors and bellmen will remain at 1,000. Why are you smiling?
don't mind me angry.
Now, in certain countries, there is a limit as to how many people they take in each profession. Because if you have in your local jurisdiction people in a certain profession, they don't take you in that profession. So that's why I keep saying you have to register. Everybody is saying they're unemployed, there's no job, but you have not registered with labor. So labor really can't tell you how many people they have in a certain profession because you haven't registered. You have to register.
What's that process like?
Just put your name on the list.
Just walk in and
Put your name on the list.
So you want to go in by yourself and.
Yeah, the Department of Labor.
Oh, okay.
And you go and you put your name on the list and you say
Yeah, the job
what the
comes up,
job is, a job comes up, they will call
they'll
you.
call you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if I have
You can't
before
actually
me
just
20
get your name on the
applications for gardeners, I call the Ministry of Labor. How many do you have? None.
So then they process
They
it.
process them.
They give
They
it-
process
they
them?
give a
Seriously.
certificate. And
Think
the
about it,
certificate
because everything
states
is
that no
connected.
payment available for that job.
For that job.
Oh, okay.
Why are you looking like that? This seriously now.
No,
This is
no.
how it
No,
works.
the thing is funny because
Now I'm just using the gardener,
no,
but I'm just saying,
no, I
yeah.
was doing my yard one day this week, and a Bahamian guy passed by, and the guy said, "The Haitians have nothing on you. You're doing this better than the Haitians."
Because he doesn't want to do it, right?
No,
Okay.
exactly.
He doesn't want to do it. And there'll always be jobs for immigrants coming into the country. This is like that all over the world. But you limit it. But if you don't go and register your skill set, then they will keep coming in. That's just how it is.
That's all they tell you when you call. The job's already taken.
Yeah. Every time you call, they'll tell you that.
The job's already
They
taken.
couldn't say that.
You should have.
Yeah, they always say that.
I
They're
read
always
it.
on the radio.
It's always there. They always
they
saying, come and
tell
register.
people.
They always
When,
tell you
What's
that.
his name? Robert Parkinson?
Mhm,
What's his
they
name?
always tell you
He
that.
was very good. He used to always call people
Come and
in and he
register.
said that.
That is the process. If you
Because he
lose
said
your
he
job
used to tell
today,
people
you
no.
register.
A lot because he used to tell them no for a lot of them. Because he tell
Yeah.
them he call people because he know people available and he'd always put out the appeal and for
Mhm.
people to come in.
Yeah,
A
you
lot of people
register.
just don't register like she said.
You don't register. So they have your cooks, teachers. It's the same thing. You see people in the hospital, you have them coming from where? Malaysia, all over the world.
Everywhere.
Because the Bahamians have left here and they've gone to the United States. And so now they have come in. And they're living good. Mhm. Christmas they're shopping in Johnville. But the Bahamians were here and so they couldn't make it. So what is it?
Well, they have different benefits though, I mean, they don't spend them.
But I'm saying, Bahamians have to realize, like you say, it's a cultural thing. You know you're only making $10, so why are you going to spend 15? If you love what you do, you'll be rewarded in the end. You see what I'm saying? Because when I look at those people are not suffering. They're blossoming. Because they send back money home all the time. And they live in here, and they're all renting in medium to high income areas. Okay. Or they live in whatever it is, but I'm saying they're not to the bottom. And they're not complaining about money, and they all want to stay now. They all want to buy homes now. And that's what we're not looking at. Because at the end of the day, we will all be squeezed out as more of them come in, and they're taking the professions that the country actually need. And that's what you have to look at.
Because I always wonder why our nurses are leaving, but they're saying.
And
that's
they're
why I
doing
wonder
well.
Why, if they're paying them more than our nurses or what?
Mhm.
They get paid more when they go away, and maybe I guess sometimes it's the benefits too. If they're coming in, the ones that come in, do they give them housing?
Right, that's
Because
what I wanna
sometimes
know.
there's
Do
a
they
lot of
have-
times for work permits.
I don't know if they give
people
them
that come
housing.
and
I know
work
they all
permits,
live together.
A lot of them come. They
Like
get
5 to
like
6 of them will
housing.
live
Yeah,
in
they
one
do,
place.
yeah.
And they split it up.
Yeah.
The same thing for a teacher, they all live together.
Mhm.
And they split it.
Yeah, but see,
Yeah,
we
but
don't-
then the locals.
No, you don't want to do that. No, I must have my own house.
And it's
Because you have a
fine.
husband and children.
Not all of them.
And it's fine, unless we want 5 cars.
Yes. So it's just a lot of different things. It's a cultural thing. But we've never learned what it is to survive.
Because
That's
even as a
different.
teacher, if you go on the family
Yeah.
island, they pay you hardship allowance, they pay you different
Mhm.
things.
And they
so
don't
you
want to take
can-
that either.
You can save that way.
They don't want that. Permanent resident. An applicant who's resided in the Bahamas for at least 10 years but less than 20 and who holds a work visa and is not a teacher employed as a police officer, prison overseer or nurse will pay $7,500 from $5,000 for their permanent residency certificate. And the one for who's been in the country again for 10, less than 20, they can pay $2,000 instead of $1,000. So you know when they write these exam questions, they're going to be tricky. An applicant who resides in the country for at least 20 years who is a priest, minister of religion, will pay $1,000 instead of $500. Person born outside the Bahamas whose mother is a Bahamian citizen will pay $1,000 for permanent residence instead of $250.
Wait. What, this is married? Because
They both know for that.
No, for what? The wife of a Bahamian citizen will pay $1,000 for permanent residency instead of $250. You have your wife is foreign born. A person seeking permanent residence would now have to pay 15,000 instead of 10, according to the bill. Prison overseers or any other non-professional government contracted officer who reside in the country for at least 20 years and holds a work permit will pay 1,000 instead of 500. What's the purpose of the increase? Twofold: income and deterrence.
Deterrence.
Yes.
So when they say the wife, they mean the husband or wife?
Yeah.
Your spouse.
Then I did the other pages. I put the requirements of persons seeking permanent residency through investments, what the minister requires. Your 2 passports, your birth certificate, your spouse certificate, your marriage certificate, your death certificate, your divorce decree if you're divorced, proof of immigration status in the Bahamas, your fees, your references, your medical certificate, and then proof of ownership of property in the Bahamas. And then I said there's a nominal fee for both the certificate of registration and the permit, 2.5% government stamp duty on all real estate transactions valued over 100,000, and a total tax of 10% if it's over 100,000 and over, 100,000 and over. And whenever you have a sale of real estate, there's normally a 50-50 split between the vendor and the purchaser. That's the usual way for stamp duty. And the legal fee in the Bahamas is normally 2.5% of the sale price of the property. Of course, you have to do title search, the recording fees, and any other distributions. All of those fees added up. 10% commission is charged if it's undeveloped land by a real estate agent. 6% is charged on residential and commercial. So there are a lot of fees. General assessment of real property is assessed before October 15th. And once they put the notice in the paper that valuation is taking place, that is notice to the world. If you don't go and collect it, if you don't go and check on it, you're still liable. If you die and you haven't paid it, it's taken from your estate. First thing. So if you left any cash and you didn't pay real property tax, that comes with place. Owners must file a declaration of real property. The return must be signed by the owner and witnessed by an authorized person. And an authorized person could be a bank officer or a notary public. Note that if it appears that a property subject to assessment has not been assessed, the chief valuation officer may assess the property retroactively to a maximum of 10 years. And I put the rate of taxes in respect of owner-occupied property. First $250 of market value is tax exempt, and then after that it's time for you to start paying. Why you miss my blank sheet? Property owned by Bahamians and situated in the Family Islands is exempt from property tax, and property approved as commercial farmland may be eligible for property tax exemptions. So as we move now into the 21st century and trying to be a country that is regulated, we have VAT at 12%, and we're prepared for it now to go to. You may have to.
So how much?
You may have to.
20%.
Yes.
So they're thinking about corporate taxes?
So that wouldn't pertain to you.
I know, that's what I say. All these foreign companies around here. You say corporate tax?
Back for 20%?
Some countries that don't.
The commercial
They don't have
entities
custom duty.
substance bill is drafted to establish whether a foreign company has an economic substance in the Bahamas in order for it to be taxed. You understand what I mean?
for instance, like Morton Salt.
That's physically present here.
It is, right?
Mhm.
In that
That's
one.
an operated company,
Maybe
not
it's an
those,
owner, so-
no, not those, not those,
Not those.
no. What we have, I'm looking for another marker, that's right. What we have in the Bahamas is, we're an offshore center, right? You know what that means? Juju? You don't know what I mean? But when I say these things, you have to say I don't understand.
That's why I said I not really.
Okay, so. As an offshore center, we have a domestic market and we have an international market. Okay? We have domestic taxation. What is our domestic taxation? Domestic. VAT.
Custom duty.
VAT, customs,
Property.
business license, you have your environmental fee, you have NIV, roughly.
Will those surcharges come under the same thing or that's something different?
What surcharges? A BPL?
The BPL surcharge.
Yeah, that's a tax. Anything else? Any other tax you pay? That's roughly it. On the international market, what do they pay?
Registration.
Registration.
So they have the annual fees and they have corporate fees. And that's for nominee services, more or less. Know what I mean when I say nominee services?
No.
Nominee services means that these companies are administered by a financial corporate service provider. You know what that is? Yes? No?
No.
Okay. So in the Bahamas, we have a group of companies called FCSPs, Financial Corporate Service Providers. These companies are Bahamian owned, and what they do is they provide companies, international companies, with directors and officers for their companies. And they do their annual filings. So whenever you incorporate a company under international area, you do it twofold, either under the Companies Act or under the IBC Act. No matter which one it is, they need to have an office in the Bahamas.
That's all those little templates on,
Yes.
on all the, okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And this is the service that they provide. This is the fees that they pay. Add to this would be their, I have the nominee services and they have a nominee fee. Right? So, what the OECD said was that all of these little islands around the world offer these companies. They have thousands of them on the books. But the question is, does the tax that they pay give any substance to the country where they are housed? Or are they just being housed here, booking their profits here, and taking their profits out of the country, but not helping to maintain the country where they say that they are incorporated? And so we have a draft bill now that's going to look at whether or not these IBC companies have a substantial presence in the Bahamas in order to be taxed. Be mindful that depends on how it is interpreted. If we had 10, it will reduce to 5. If we had 20, it will reduce to 10.
I don't understand what you're talking about. Why is it reducing?
Is it-
I'm not gonna pay.
I'm,
I'm not paying tax.
Really?
They'll leave.
oh,
If you'd employ 20 people, you're down to 10. So, that's international pressure.
But then wouldn't all of the jurisdiction be faced with this because of the OECD, same issue, same pressure?
Worldwide.
Okay.
But we have to face ours on our own.
Right, I mean, at least.
On the domestic front, what are the issues we have? Because it's a different tax regime.
Yeah.
What's the issues we have here?
Taxes going up and income and we don't know that.
Well, the economy here is still overpriced. Very much so.
Because we have this market. Because we are not just incorporating these companies. What did we just finish talking about? People buying land, becoming permanent residents. So if you have a house that's situated here, and I'm going to sell it to Bahamian, Bahamian could tell me I could pay you $5. But to these people, when they walk on this land, they only say one word: "This is paradise." You're not gonna sell it to them for $5. You can sell them for $100, and they will pay you. So the value of the land keep going up. But the problem we have here is what?
The incomes aren't going up.
How the income going up?
It's not.
It's
I was gonna
not.
say
It's not.
It's not going up.
Why would it go up?
cost of living is going up. When it comes to increase, so put the cost of
Why is the cost of living going up?
because the people are coming in.
Because of taxes.
No.
It's mainly greed.
Yeah, we have a breakdown in here. Our infrastructure needs to go up. Okay. And as long as these continue, it will go higher.
They gotta cover that.
They have to cover it. It's just if you have a shop. If you have a shop and people keep coming in and stealing all the time, eating grapes, taking out 6, putting it on the shelf, giving the children a cookie, instead of bringing the cookie to the register, slip it on the side, the prices will go up.
You have to cover for the
You have to
losses.
cover for the lost. I don't need to post the pictures on the wall anymore to shame you, because you're not shame. I'll put it in the cost. So, you all knew corruption was going on. Nobody said nothing. They took the money. Everybody took the money. Everybody spent the money. Everybody's quiet. You will pay taxes. Think about it. The money went somewhere.
So my question is, how can we have our international friends help us pay for our corruption in our body?
They can't.
But
Plus
they
they
have
won't.
to.
They won't. Look at it around the world. Look at other countries around the world when they're in trouble. What happens? They leave you there and let you fight among yourself. Unless you have something they want. What do you have that the international arena wants? Besides your proximity to the United States.
Yeah, fish in the sea.
The Dominicans are taking that every day.
Every day.
Every day. Fishermen complain about it every day. Every day. Who sucks his teeth? But I always like to bring things back to reality.
My Lord. It's the truth.
Oh, you all silent?
Because it's the truth.
sad.
It is the
Yeah,
truth.
it's sad.
And so it's like, you know, we face with it every day. And
What y'all gonna do
we
when I start
start-
talking about retirement?
You get up and you
So
No, don't leave.
It is so true.
But this is
We just need a zero tolerance level.
yeah.
Yes.
But it is like how I was talking the same thing about immigration and
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
it's just
If you keep
accepted.
sitting
It's
back,
accepted.
nothing will happen.
Yeah.
you can speak up all you want and nothing will still happen.
You have to be one.
But that's the problem.
You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to be one.
Everybody wants
You have to be one.
Because again, money from bribery and.
Ah, there you go.
Mhm.
There you go.
Shoot, one of the last marches we do, the fella get appointed in the Senate.
But this is why it will continue to go up. So even though you're putting in place a framework now
Mhm.
for the future,
It's still gonna go up.
the money has already gone.
Yeah.
The years it will take to get that back is way down here.
But I mean, even the collection of real property tax, like, they know we owe it, they know where the houses are, and then they still don't collect it. We have over 500
You know where the
million
houses are,
outstanding.
collecting the house is one thing. Who are you going to sell it to? There's no market to sell it to unless you sell it to foreigners.
Mhm.
I mean, you should say, well, thank God, but then in hindsight, you may say, no, oh God, the Chinese are buying them.
Mhm.
And then you have to be careful there. Because they're all in all the residential areas. And when you'll go to sleep and you'll open your eye in 2025,
Mhm.
they will own it all.
Mhm.
I met a Nigerian and she told me that.
Mhm.
She said,
Oh, yeah.
she said, I am on this corner selling cards for a tour bus, and I have a master's degree. I cannot get a job in my country because all the companies that are run by Chinese only employ Chinese. I can sweep the floor, but I cannot be a manager in my country. Mhm. So you can't be insulated. You have to know what's happening around you, not just in the Caribbean, but internationally, because it affects us. It affects us. So now you may have to be given advice to a Bahamian who wants to sell their business to a Chinese. I've seen a business owned by a Bahamian where every 2 weeks the police was there, shutting them down, shutting them down, shutting them down. You're doing this illegal, you're doing that illegal. Who wants that bar now? Chinese. Did the police come?
No.
No. Flourishing. They already put a pattern on the back. Did they use peddling the bicycle?
Mhm. You know, there's liberty for the business there.
That's what I'm talking about.
So are they able to do that? Because I know, like, let's say if it's a commercial, maybe it's different, like, in commercial areas, like, you can turn it into semi-residential, but you can't do residential into commercial.
They normally only
Let
do
me
commercial.
open your eyes for you. They are a community.
Mhm.
They work together.
Mhm.
We are not.
Well, I don't
When
know.
one speak, they speak for all.
Okay, so that's why their prices are able to be so big, because they buy in
They
bulk.
buy bulk. When I buy for one, I buy for all. Good learn.
We have to start doing it. That's the
You have to learn.
Yeah. That's true, because we always complain about it, but we still right there buying it.
Boy, you thinking hard, eh?
I got one friend coming up again.
He's thinking hard.
Yeah.
He's thinking hard.
So you complain and you know what's going on, but we right there.
No, but it's things that when you finish and you have the certification, when you advising someone, you have to take everything into context. You have competition right here amongst the people you live with. And you have to look at not what's just in the best interest of the person that you are giving advice to, but also for the country as a whole. Those are the things you have to think about. Would this be in the best interest of the country?
So before
Yes.
we move on, one last question. How would you advise that Bahamian, when you say the police was shutting him down every 2 weeks, how would you advise him to not sell his business and, I guess, flourish?
My first thing was why is the police coming?
Somebody called in.
Someone was calling. And guess who was calling?
The people
The
who buy
Chinese
it.
locked
The
down.
people who buy it.
That's what I'm telling you. You have to be wise. I would have hired an attorney.
Then going back to corruption and.
Yes,
bribery
right.
and-
So I would have hired an attorney, and then guess what?
Mhm.
What most people do now, I would have actually called one of the Tribune or the Guardian to say this is a problem that I'm having. Have my lawyers speak out so I can get public attention. But they kept coming and coming and coming, closed them out, and when I looked, the sign said Ching Wong Fong Wong Wong. I said, what happened?
But
Just like that.
sometimes the
Close
name
them out.
don't change.
No, yeah, I know. Sometimes, but the name
And-
changed
You know,
because
you
guess
don't
what?
even know that it's
It
a Chinese
closed.
entity.
It closed for a month, right?
Uh-huh.
And I say, well, they must be going on vacation. They're probably tired of the police, right?
Uh-huh.
Then I saw the doors open up, and a Chinese man came out. I said, well, a Chinese man buying from the black man now? This is strange. When I look, more Chinese come out. They said Chinese own it. And that's what I'm talking about. And it's sad.
It is.
Yes, it is.
It is.
It's sad. But that's another thing that you have to take into consideration when you're giving advice to people. Should I sell? Would it be better maybe if you got a partner? Maybe you need to seek advice of a lawyer. Maybe change location. Why would the Chinese want this building? Why? And the thing is that the Chinese will offer you a little bit more than the market just so they could get it. And then they flourish. So that's something else you have to think about. Okay? So what I have done next is give you the process for when you are buying land. And I think you could read that. That's very simple. Let's talk about mortgages. What advice would you give to someone who wants to get a mortgage? What would you tell them? Hmm? No, I'm coming to you and I say, I'm thinking of buying a house. What would you tell me to do?
I would tell you to make sure you have your down payment because you stop tax. You know, there's a lot of fees associated with purchasing a home.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying, if you have some type of assets, make sure.
But I don't have any assets and I don't have any money.
Like you need to save up
Yeah,
something.
you
It's
definitely
more,
need
be
to
house
save,
poor.
yeah.
I would tell them that when you actually get a mortgage, if you have to get in, if you gotta make it 25 years just to get in the door, once you in fact get that mortgage, every month or every so often as best you can, pay something against the principal
Yeah.
and get this thing
Down.
down.
So it's less interest as possible.
Yeah.
No,
No,
but
what you mean
Right,
is saying,
I'm
yeah, you gotta
just-
save for the deposit. You need a deposit.
Mhm.
So the first thing how you can advise them is, you can advise that guess what? These are the down payment required by each institution. These are the rate of interest being offered by each institution. That's the first thing. Now, what's the next thing you gotta ask them?
It's the income.
What's their income?
It's the
Because you'll
expenses.
advise them what would be best within their income budget based upon what they make and whatever else that they can qualify for. And that's how you start with this certification. I will assist you in terms of gearing your mind as to what you can qualify for. Because in their mind, they may be saying, I want to buy a house valued $400,000. They ain't making that, right? They may have gone around and hustled for the down payment, but they can't make the monthly payments. But the whole thing is you have to advise someone what's in their best interest, not what they're dreaming. Okay, so now, you can tell them about the down payment, you tell them about the interest rates, you tell them what they can qualify for, this will be the best thing within your income. What are you gonna tell them, what is a mortgage? What is it?
Mortgage is Latin for death grip. Mort is death. Rich or something like that. Or home. I know why they named that mortgage. You know they stuff.
What's a mortgage?
It's an agreement with you and the bank, and then
Yeah.
over a certain period of time,
They
you
gotta
pay
give
them.
you the money now,
Yeah,
and
monthly
you're gonna
amounts.
pay them back the money plus interest
Yeah,
over a
plus
certain
interest.
period of time.
They don't say,
Yeah.
plus interest, but it's,
Yeah, they don't
it's,
say,
it's
yeah.
implied.
Yeah, it's implied.
So
Yeah.
a mortgage could only be related to property, right?
Mm-hmm. And property doesn't mean land, you know. You get the mortgage,
What's it, they have like
Then you get the
chattel
asset.
chattel mortgage. Chattel mortgage for
is-
cars.
For
Yeah.
chattel mortgage for
Yeah.
cars.
Cars,
for
right.
cars.
Cars.
Yeah.
So it's probably in a sense of the.
Also, it's just pretty much an agreement that if you default, that's
They would
They
take
will-
it.
They will
Yeah.
take, they will
Yeah.
take, they
Yeah.
will repossess your
Yeah.
property.
well,
That's what it means. And a lot of people, that's like the mortgage corp thought that
They can just move it and don't pay.
they could just move in and don't pay.
I
For
guess.
years.
Unbelievable.
How is that?
My mom works there.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, right?
Yes, it is.
You didn't pay for 5 years and you're calling on the public now to have some pity on you?
Yeah.
And some of them were worn from 2012.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've been trying to get them out the houses.
It's more than 5 years.
It's more than 5
Yeah.
years.
I read in the paper somebody's mortgage was 84,000
Mm-hmm.
and they now owe 83,000.
And they never pay rent.
No. No.
Probably the first
They have one.
payments.
They have a person. Yeah, he paid for
So
like
why
1 year.
was in the mortgage
And
corporation
they-
like they don't have like a collection?
Yeah, they do.
I'm sure they do.
Phone call.
Someone is
Phone
called.
Phone call.
Phone call.
Again, you see my thing on board?
If I read that correctly,
Yes.
yeah.
And now you see why the wheels of the country can't move. We don't have a little rat or hamster on the spin wheel going to run fast, you know. You just have a fat dog just laying there.
With the mortgage corporation too, I think they stretch maybe, let's say a mortgage a little bit longer sometimes, so they try
And the
to
payments
make
are
the
low.
people,
But it just,
oh,
but it's again, it's a cultural thing. I'm not paying for it.
Exactly.
And a lot of them probably couldn't even qualify for it
Right.
because a
Yeah.
phone call was made.
Yeah, they made them
To get them
qualify.
to
Right?
get in.
Yeah.
And then I told you when you came around, I have 5 votes for you. I voted for you. I'm not going to pay. It's as simple as that.
Give me the house.
You give me the house, I'm not paying.
I mean, the mere fact, they said that one individual said, no, you cannot have a salary deduction. But that same individual then got a commercial loan where the salary was deducted for that.
Uh-huh.
So of course, they couldn't pay their mortgage
Of
because
course.
they were meant to pay the commercial loan.
Uh-huh.
Like how you can get a mortgage and say, no, you can't get a salary deduction?
Because they knew they were gonna get a commercial loan.
Unbelievable.
No, it's not unbelievable. That's exactly what I have up on there.
Exactly.
If you can get away with it, you will do
Thank
it.
you.
But in the end, it
Because
costs the
they're supposed to
country.
make sure they get a salary deduction.
Because we're at 12% now, and I'm telling you, if this does not decrease
It has to go
in
up.
2 years, not 5, we go into 15.
Wow, it's development like.
And if we're not doing any better, we're gonna go to 17. And then you'll go to 20. Keep going, y'all will hit 40. No, seriously, because the point is that it doesn't make any sense if you're generating income and it can't be applied where it's supposed to go.
Right.
So whether we like it or not, it's not just to say the government is doing it. Up here, we also have international pressure.
Right.
Why wasn't VAT why was VAT made on services and like products and services?
Because it's a consumption tax.
'Cause
You
I
all
can understand,
consume.
okay, well, retail, let's say when you make purchases, but then every single thing you do is.
That's the only way to make the money. It's on consumption.
So how come they didn't consider an income tax? Because with the international sector,
You
if
want the
you work
Bahamians to die?
I mean, you could kind of negate
They
it.
are considering it.
They're considering it.
Because you
I
could
think they need to.
reduce
But they
VAT.
should've, they're not gonna reduce, they ain't gonna
They
buy.
ain't gonna
They ain't gonna buy. You will keep that.
See,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be some type of trade.
You will have, no, 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 no. You will have this,
20%.
you will have this, you will have this, still this,
Mhm.
still this,
Exactly.
still that, and put that on top of that.
Yes.
Yeah, they go
Yeah,
about
they-
it.
They can charge us 10% VAT, go down to 10, and then charge it.
No, they will not charge you 10%.
Yeah,
No.
they're not going backwards now.
Cause see with the income tax, you would affect.
And we're
international
gonna have even more discussion when we discuss this.
Oh, yeah.
We have lots of discussion when we discuss that.
They say, and I be when by the time we retire, and I be when.
Oh, in your time, there's nothing left for y'all. I get mine.
You hope.
Yeah.
You hope.
Oh no, I get mine. Damn, nothing happening to that.
Yeah, financial institutions, we get
But
set
you
up
know
a
what's
time
happened
fund.
too?
That
In
means
the-
you better try and get you a pension plan.
Exactly.
But that's when we talk about pension and NIB. That's what we're gonna talk about.
the
Using the investment you all learn, how you gonna advise a client. So think about it now, because each one is gonna tell me how you gonna advise a client at different ages. That's how you make this practical. Everybody wants to leave. Who's gonna bill it? What you gonna say?
Even in the government service, I think they are now slowly moving towards this gratuity thing that they have in place for civil servants. They're changing that model as well. Yeah.
And even on the private sector, they're finding out that pension plans are too expensive. You see? So that's another thing that's changing too. So again, you have to start to move into your own investments, planning for your own retirement. Because as you know, when you see it's time for pensioners to be paid, they're outside BOB
Oh, yeah.
from 6:45.
Early, yeah.
And when you realize that they go in to collect $250 or $220,
Yeah.
how can they live?
For the
How
month.
can they
For the
live?
month.
For the month. For the month. Because everything depends on how much you contributed during your lifetime. So if you were self-employed and you decided you were going to just pay on the minimum or not at all, you get the minimum.
I found that interesting on national insurance because employers, or you can actually pay a higher amount
Mhm.
into the fund, and it really changes your monthly amount once you turn 65.
Mhm.
But no one says nothing about it from the employee point of view.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
You can pay more.
most persons is probably like this.
See?
Most people, not all. But you can, even though you may not be at the ceiling, you can still pay at the ceiling, so you can get more.
Persons
Oh, I didn't know.
do that because
Yeah.
it's like, okay, like you say.
Yeah, you don't do it,
Yes.
but when you realize,
But it was explained to them.
Yeah.
Yes, they're gonna be broken, they probably can't pay me.
but you realize that when you speak to foreigners, they can explain every plan that the
Of course.
government has.
Yeah.
We don't. We paying it. I seen someone call into a show this week was saying that they were working with someone for 12 years and come to find out they went for some disability and that there was no contribution. You have to check.
Yes, you have to check.
The onus is on you.
Yeah.
It's coming out of your salary. You need to call
They
NIB.
carry them to court, eh?
Oh, good. Well, the company is defunct.
Oh, wow.
So that's 12 years of contribution gone. And the owner of the company is deceased. You see what I'm saying? You know, it's 12 years of contribution. That is a lot. And it's gone.
Forever.
Yeah, forever. Not coming back.
You have to ask questions though.
You have to ask questions. You see what I'm saying? It's like everything from when we started tonight, everything is on us. And just the same way, all of this is here, where we lack responsibility. We as individuals lack responsibility. You go ask a typical Bahamian any question, oh, I don't know. Oh, I was supposed to know that? Well, where am I supposed to know that from? And that's what you face when you try to advise people. We'll talk about that when we do the will. People don't like talking wills.
That's like, I was in discussion this week with my boss, because I was, doing some like financial planning coaching. And he was assessing me, and so for 10 years ago I got some life insurance and I got term life, no I got whole, I think I got term life, right? And so now he's telling me, okay, well it's cheaper to get whole life. Because you know, term life of a saving and
Right.
insurance companies or agents, they sell you on that savings. However, let's say over 10 years my savings only $2,000.
Yeah.
Opposed to when he break it down, okay, well you could have been paying $30 and saving the $50, and you probably would have had saved $8,000, you know, but and I was like, gee, but when you don't know and you leaving it up to
You
the
have to ask,
person
you
who's
have to ask
Selling it.
questions because,
Selling it.
yeah, because
Based on their
yeah,
commission.
right, they're selling based on a commission.
Yeah,
What's,
yeah.
what is easiest to sell,
yeah.
not what's in your best interest.
No, and that's like exactly. Even with like you
So
said,
that's,
oil,
and that's another
other
area that
investments
people who do the
you get.
CFP,
Mhm.
who are in insurance business, they use this as their advantage. Because they take with their insurance skills and they're able to sell other products to their clients.
Even like sometimes
You see?
investment products, you don't realize the hidden fees behind it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
a lot of different things, but you know they just tell you on the benefits, but sometimes the
Because if you look in the papers today, you will see that the government has a new offering of stocks.
Mhm.
That's an investment. With no fees. None whatsoever. Straight out. Just dividends. But people will pass it right through the paper and ignore it.
What is this?
Bahamas
Yeah.
government registered stock. It's in the papers today.
Mhm.
I think it's October 15th. Mm-hmm.
What's the rate?
I didn't check the rates.
20
Did they?
years was 5%.
Uh-huh.
I think 10 years was 4.57%,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't remember the rest.
Yeah, probably 3.
The highest
And
was
normally you
5.
do it for the longer term.
Yeah, the 20.
You put it in for 20 years. Take it out whenever you want it. Cash it in.
Say what?
You're not gonna do better than 5%. How much do commercial banks give you?
Well,
0.00001?
I don't know, like my bank, I think they have a staff saving plan where they can give you like 5%.
oh, okay, let's see.
Staff.
That's staff, yeah.
That's good.
But remember
Yeah.
now, the whole purpose of the registered stock is to assist the government in defraying its expenses.
Right.
So it's to help the country.
Yeah.
Go on the robbery theft corrupt.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I things are put in place, you have to pay for it.
At least you're getting something back.
Yeah, you're getting some money back
If you put it in.
over 20 years. Huh?
Minimum of
I think it'll work,
No,
but
$1,000.
No, $1,000.
$1,000.
Oh, and $100
Domination,
denomination.
yeah.
Yeah, minimum $1,000,
Yeah.
$100
Start
denomination.
with 1,000. That's a good investment. That's another way you when you invest someone, especially someone who is pre-retiring, and they know they're getting a lump sum, or like he said, like she was saying, if you know someone who just had a spouse that died, they got a lump sum of money. The first thing people want to do is, okay, I need to pay off all my expenses. If you at that age where you're still going to be working, you have to think about what's in the best interest of this person in the long run. You see what I mean? If they have a life expectancy of another 20, 25 years, then invest the money. Especially if you have another 10 to 15 years to work. Then you work on a plan, get your debts, work a plan. This is how I'm going to pay these debts down. Don't take your lump sum and pay off all the debts, because you ain't gonna never save that money again. The money is gone. That's the kind of advice you have to give
Depends on the
people.
discipline you are, though, if you do that, if you take
Everybody
the
in
payment,
discipline.
right, cause if you take the
Hey,
payment, but you
money
was
no
paying on those
incidences.
loans,
The minute you get money,
if you.
something happens.
No, I'm talking about like if you
Someone
leave.
Or someone
if you
calls,
leave-
yes.
You leave that bank payment that you were paying your mortgage and everything else on, and
That
you
don't happen
continue
in the real
saving
world.
that. Yeah,
Something
you have
happens.
to be
yeah, you're not
disciplined.
gonna-
You
yeah,
have to
Something
be
happens.
disciplined.
You won't end up saving it.
No, you won't end up saving it. Something will happen, and you're gonna have to use it. But where you already have it invested, before you break it, you will think, should I break this, or should I use this collateral and borrow? You see what I mean? And then look at the cost benefit.
That's just what to say, because breaking it, if they giving you 2%, but you borrowing something for 15%,
Yeah, but
What's
you're still
the-
paying it back over
You're still paying it back
Yeah.
over time. It depends.
Yeah.
Always remember now, if you take an investment and you cash it in, it is gone.
Mm-hmm.
But if you leave it as collateral and you borrow, at the end of the day of paying it, the money is still there.
Yeah, but I think I borrowed it, I paying to spend my own money.
Yeah, but
When I
once
get
you
it
pay
like
a
that.
comfortable payment,
Yeah.
you know, because that payment you won't be able to save, like, savings really hard.
Savings is hard to
Yeah,
get,
yeah.
because
Well,
can you
I'm
discipline
disciplined.
yourself?
I'm disciplined.
Right.
If
You
I,
see, the better
if
person
I
can
pay off the
discipline
loan
themselves
early,
to
8
put
years
that money
early,
back.
5 years early, I would continue
guide
to
it
save
for
that.
her.
So it's just how it
That too.
That's another problem.
yeah.
Not necessarily you leaving a lot of debt.
If I'm looking, I look at it as I borrowed my own money.
Yeah, that's true too.
I paid it.
Yeah,
I
I
paid that.
I will use my running money to pay for something.
Yeah. So it's two different ways. All right. So mortgage is an interest in property. That's what it means. It's an interest. So when you purchase a piece of land, can I take off my drawing now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Huh?
This is
Get off?
conversations.
Why you didn't say so? I could have asked them to fix it.
I thought this idea was gonna be fun. That's interesting. These was interesting.
Find the culprit.
Yeah.
Someone in here said it was cold.
Oh, they said,
Who that
oh.
was?
In here, no, see one of the other classes.
In here.
No, man.
Someone said it was cold.
Someone said-
Oh, no, must be the person who left then.
Oh, that's what happened. No, they say someone in here said it was cold. Probably at the beginning, yeah.
I was finding longer.
Yeah, but you should have said something.
Well,
They turn
sometimes
it
it's
off.
usually me, so.
Oh, gosh, no. All right, so let's look at land. So you want to buy this piece of land. When you apply for a mortgage means interest. So a piece of land has two interests. It has a legal interest and an equitable interest. So when you enter into a mortgage, the bank takes this. Bank takes the legal interest. You have an equitable interest. As you pay down the mortgage, your equity in the house increases. So during the duration of the mortgage, you can borrow against your equity in the home. If by some instance you default, then the bank, when they sell the home, they must sell it at the best market rate. And then they minus what you owe them. So some people get legal mortgage. Some people can get an equitable mortgage, which means the mortgage is just based on the equity that they have in their home. Or you can get an equitable charge. You'll see that more when someone has a property with inventory, and then you get a charge over the inventory that's within the property.
I know that with mortgages, people tend to think, like, let's say with collections, they tend to think that, oh, okay, well, you only owe, let's say, 50,000 on the mark. Let's say the place value 200,000, but you only owe 50,000. So the bank persons tend to feel like the bank only want their money back. But like you say, people understand that the equity is the person's own, and so that's why the bank has to try to sell it. At the
And that's
best
why whenever you see
possible
the bank starts to see that this is going up, they try to offer you more money.
Yeah, once you have equity, just
Yeah. And so you would have had this mortgage now, let's say this mortgage is for 25 years. You're paying all along. Right? going along, had a baby, going along. And so here you are right here. He jump up and say he wants to go to school. And you have all of this equity. So you go to the bank and you borrow another 50 grand. On top of what you had before. So you borrowed the 50,000. Don't forget you get 25 years. And then BOP! They tell you you're redundant.
Hmm.
See how close you are?
Mhm.
House is up for sale.
Mhm.
And you're gonna lose it all. Because when you got this, you took this back up and lowered this.
Mhm.
You understand what I mean? You've lowered it.
Mhm.
So now instead of you owing the bank maybe a balance of 35, you now owe them what? 85 plus interest.
Mhm.
But the bank will normally pay you, like once they sell it, like let's say the bank sells it.
Sometimes that takes long.
Okay, pay you.
Has anybody ever gotten something back from the bank, like after they sold the house?
I think so.
The ones that they sold,
and
the ones that they
everything
sold
too.
in parcels. The recent ones that they sold in parcels in delinquency,
Mhm.
yeah. In
Most of the time,
parcels.
persons
No,
don't
no.
get much.
Yeah, and then most of the time, like,
Because
it's
the
hard
bank
to
is one
sell
day
it.
and
It's hard to sell
So,
real estate.
And they want their
Especially
interest
if it's
too.
not real estate that is resellable to the international market.
Like I know, like the bank that we sold to, I think they
Yeah.
used to, like the least they would try to take is maybe like 85% of the value.
Mhm.
Like they wouldn't really, like you said, they would try to get the best market price, you know, because. I mean, the
Yeah,
bank
because the
really
thing
knows-
about it is, guess what? You owe 85. The house might have been valued at, say, 300, right? And as the time go on and on and on, of course, it gets dilapidated,
Right.
right?
Right.
So you see it start dropping. You see? 275, drop. 250. Someone may actually come and say, guess what? I could pay you 180 for that.
Right.
So they take out what this 85, how much interest could be? 40,000?
Yeah.
But 40,000 or more? More than half?
More than that.
So say but 50, so they take off 5, they take off 135 from out of the 250, what you left with? And you gotta pay tax, fees,
Mhm.
If you owe real property tax, take that out too.
That's coming at, those coming at first.
Yeah, what that coming out?
Mhm.
What you getting up at?
Not a thing.
Exactly. So this is another thing I'm telling you. When you advise people, it is not good to remortgage your house when you're so close to the finish line. It's not
Amen.
wise. A lot of the homes repossessed are those people who went, remortgaged to send their children off to school. When the children finished, they said, I didn't ask you to go.
Well, then
You
some
pay
of them don't even come back.
Some don't come back.
Go.
Some send back the marriage certificate. Some send back the birth certificate.
In these courses, how come not too much time or advice is given to the divorce scenario and how that factors into people's future plans?
Discrimination, man, we don't live long time.
No, what I'm saying is that's a question you can ask. And every scenario that comes up, you can ask what happens in a divorce. You won't write it in the notes.
Right.
Okay, so it's a divorce. What do you want to know? Would you,
No, well, I mean,
what you give the wife?
no,
I can tell you what she would get.
She gets a piece.
What's her piece?
Whatever the value, not the value, whatever the value minus the outstanding mortgage divided by 2. That's
I'll
the
take
piece
you
you
to
get.
court. I want more than that.
No, but you won't leave.
Well, what did I do then?
You need to go.
But I'm entitled to more.
Why?
Why not?
Why?
I took care of you. I took care of you.
No.
I raised your children. I cooked your meals.
Yeah.
I washed your clothes. I was there for you. I want more than 50%.
Now, what if you didn't do that?
But
Yeah, you can prove that.
then you get
So that's easy. That's easily proved.
how?
Because the neighbors pass on the weekend and they saw me outside putting my clothes in the bag that I washed.
That was once. Prove it.
That's once a week.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But guess what?
Tell me.
When we married, we became one. We should share our chores together. What's wrong with you doing that? I was inside mopping. And plus, we had sex. You pay for that too.
No.
Oh yes.
No.
Oh yes.
I
Oh yes.
tell you why. Most of the time, I was on top.
Well, it takes two to tango. You can pay. Everything depends on contribution.
So time is a big factor also.
Yes, and contribution. What did that person contribute? It doesn't have to be in money. It could be in time.
So it's a whole new city.
Yeah, that don't help. That don't help. Because I stay home all day, and you go to work. When you come home, your meals are done, clothes are clean. You have to pay me. But I decide to go. That's right. My job is never finished.
You can have them hidden cameras in the house. Showed that she was sitting on the counter whenever you
I don't know how much tape you can use.
What if you had like housekeeper and the housekeeper was doing?
You supervise the housekeeper?
When you buy it in the house, you have to pay the housekeeper too.
Yeah, but whether she has a housekeeper or not, you still have to pay.
That's why I tell them when you buy
And
the
if
new
she have
house, you
children
have to
fee,
pay
you have
the
to
new
pay even
housekeeper
more.
too.
Unless you do that free now.
But the children live with me now.
That's all right.
So what they paying you for?
They come to me on the weekend.
Yeah, but, yeah. And if I don't work,
But what if it's
No, you working. You working.
I'm working
You
here.
working.
But see, you have to maintain me in the lifestyle I was used to while I was married to you.
No, but the problem with that don't work because if you decide that you want to go, you gotta understand that.
No, don't work that way.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no,
It's coming.
no.
I'm telling you.
it
No.
don't work that way.
That lifestyle is for my wife.
No.
If you ain't
No,
my wife,
no,
yes,
no, 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 no.
yes.
Oh, you have a motivating.
No, that don't work.
You done finished, that's why you say that.
That lifestyle.
No.
Yeah, you want to maintain that lifestyle.
That lifestyle is
Because you already got her used to it.
no.
Yes, I'm used to it.
That's my
No,
wife.
but you
Uh-huh.
still maintain it.
So because, was that because, so it depends on who wants to divorce? For that? Cause I
No,
thought
no,
that
no.
was normal.
It's
Once
not-
you get a person used to
Used to
certain
something.
lifestyle.
Yes.
Just like the
Yeah.
child, you want the child, you want
Unless they get married again.
No. If you and I are married,
that's what it
if we
is,
live
I've heard it.
together,
I've
if
heard
you
it.
have
But so
a
then
son-
the husband asks from the wife the same thing.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
it
just
happens.
like, yeah,
No,
many,
it
many
happens.
have
Yeah.
Yeah.
But see,
But I
more
agree
for-
with you though. I agree with you.
but if you want to go,
Yeah, I agree.
no, no,
I
I
do, but
agree.
that's what it is.
But
But
you
it is
can't-
what it
That's what it
is.
is.
you can't expect to have the lifestyle that you have that you want to walk away from.
Yeah, but you can't tell the
Ask
judge.
Tiger Woods.
You, that's how it is.
Well, I don't want,
That's
you don't wanna walk away from the
the
lifestyle,
numbers,
you
the
walk away
numbers
from
there are
you.
different.
Yeah, exactly. That's you.
Lifestyle,
Like
like the
that.
person.
Yeah. But it,
Do you know that if someone dies, if I'm your spouse and you die, and you left me something, and it's not enough to maintain me, and you've gone on and given all of these other people, I gotta go court and challenge your will.
Yeah.
that's okay. I won't be there.
But I'm just saying,
That's okay.
Okay, so as husband and wife, you can't leave your wife $1,000 there?
no.
So they'll challenge. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's nice.
But if you want to walk away, understand what you're
You
walking
keep
away.
saying you want to walk away. It's not you want to walk away. You were in a union of marriage.
That you chose to walk away from.
Yeah, whether I walk away or you walk away, there was a union, and now we need to divide.
Don't always be dividing equally.
It's not equal.
It never is.
Sometimes
No.
It never is.
Yeah,
It
never
never
equal.
is. It never is.
Never equal. They don't have that.
No.
You don't done wrong.
No, none of that is.
No.
Oh,
So
we
what if I
can-
what if I
no,
bring
no,
up-
we can't, we can't, we
No,
can't do
no,
that.
no, you don't do that
was
here.
done.
So you get, what if you get,
Really?
what if
Prenups.
There's no prenup on the
What?
baby.
No, no, prenups, that's not
Because
such
there's no
If you
such
get married,
there is no such
but if you get married
There isn't any.
outside,
You're
joking,
if you get married outside, you're
You're
registered in another country.
No, no,
you
no,
can
no,
get
no,
that.
no, sir, no, sir.
yeah.
Oh,
We don't recognize it, period.
I got married in Florida when I got married. I got
You
divorced
and
in
then
the
you
Bahamas.
registered here.
And I got divorced in the Bahamas.
Yeah, because you went.
You registered your marriage, you know, that's
so
why.
oh, so that could be something to advise, and you could, let's say, you were
No, the
married.
laws are allowed to change and
Yes.
they don't want
So
it.
what if, let's say I file for,
No, because don't
If I
forget
can
now,
file for
we
divorce
go
overseas.
back now to the very beginning. What is our source document as a Bahamian? The Constitution. This is a Christian nation.
so I can't file for divorce in the US.
Why would
Yeah,
you want to
your
do
wife
that?
won't
You may
allow
get
you.
less. You may get nothing.
Okay, let's say we sign a prenup in the US, right?
Where your assets at?
Where your assets?
Yeah, the Bahamas, but
No.
then I go
Right
and
here, right here, right
and
here.
I get divorced
No.
in the States.
No, no, you come in here with assets
The
after
US
distribution.
court- The US
You
court
wouldn't
can't put
care?
their law into the Bahamas.
No.
If your property is from the States, you can get
Yeah, you can do that.
It's not like the last class I had this guy was contemplating marriage. By the time we were finished with this one, and with Will,
You
and
said that's that.
NIB, he said that's it.
Ah, you know she don't want
Just,
no
just
more.
over the radio, just live together.
Okay, live together then, and then would you what's the consequences of that?
Common law
No,
wife.
no,
Let's say
no,
common
no,
law.
that's
Let's
not
not
common
common
law.
law.
Common law
You're still married.
You still married.
You're still married. That's why it's called common law marriage.
So I still entitled to everything if you'd have taken me to the church.
Laws, man. When last thing update those? Like the divorce laws and common law marriage and all. When last thing update
We
that?
don't have common law in the Bahamas. So a woman lives with you, unless you write a will, she's not entitled. She's not your wife.
When you die, she doesn't get anything.
So why people-
Oh, I
So
thought
where
we
the common-
had.
where the common
That's
law
where
wife
that come
come
They have
from?
it in the
Okay.
Caribbean. In the
So we
Caribbean
never had-
countries,
we
they
never
have
had
common
common
law
law.
wife on the books.
So we never had that here in the Bahamas?
When we go and do will, and you
Uh-huh.
read the Inheritance Act,
Uh-huh.
you will see it says wife. So
And then
the
children.
ones are very
Because the
wrong.
inheritance act is the definition of children has changed.
Children don't get.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's children inside the West.
Doesn't matter.
Outside.
Whenever you have children.
Yeah, it never used to be like that
No.
before.
Before it would have been the children
Children,
in the
yeah,
marriage.
exactly.
Now it's all children.
Children.
Yeah.
All.
Mystery children.
All 17.
All.
Oh.
Even the ones where you went every month and
No.
gave $100 to and pretended wasn't yours, they
Mhm.
can come to the court also.
So what if you never gave anything, but they still
Same
come to
difference.
the-
Same
It's
thing.
yours, yeah. Once it's proven that it's
Yeah, proven
yours.
it's yours.
Wow.
I told you that, you know.
What is rough again?
Cause they want to go kill him again.
Yeah.
You know, try to find true love.
Hey, they done dead, and ain't that nigga too. Ain't that nigga too. And all these children come out of the woodwork. Wow.
Yeah. But like you said, you're dead.
Mhm, they gone. Yeah.
But you leave other people to take care of your
Yeah.
mess.
But you should have said something though.
Your other children, like your outside children, could come back and.
Challenge your will.
Yeah.
Even if you never acknowledged them, never took care of them, never
If
did anything.
if they are your children, you can challenge it.
And you've had instances like that where they
People
won.
wasn't for it. Yeah.
But so the other kids had
Or
to
because
share.
sometimes you'll see where the child may have never known their father,
Mhm.
but the mother
The
was
mother
getting
hit it.
and was getting funds for it. That happens.
That's like a case
I don't
of-
want nothing to do with you,
Mhm.
but you could go and just deposit the money to the bank or
Mhm.
wherever we meet and you give me the envelope or whatever.
Mhm.
Now, in those instances, the father would have to have signed for the child, or if
Not
they don't,
necessarily,
no?
no.
So you just have to
You can do
prove
blood
it.
tests.
Blood test, okay.
Mhm.
They tell
Okay,
them
so it
that-
has to be blood test
No.
after David's. After
No,
David's
it's blood
not
test or you can do affidavits, but people be saying that they saw you there all the time. The child called you father, you
Every
call the
time.
child's son, whatever. Yeah. Just put it
Mm.
together and you'll have to challenge it.
Okay.
But back
Yeah.
to divorce, they're saying that only a third of the divorces that are filed here get finalized.
Yeah, because what the courts are doing now is because we are a Christian nation.
Contingencies.
No, when you go before the court and you say, I want to divorce him, they say, you need to go and try to reconcile.
Try to reconcile.
And then when you come back, it would look as if
You're-
reconciliation is
Yeah.
possible
Yeah.
based upon the conversations you're having.
Yeah.
They send you back to reconcile some more. No, some at the very beginning when they come, you could see
That's
it's
it.
over. But in most instances, it's not. Some people just doing things on the spur of the moment.
Mhm.
Because marriage is never an easy road. There's always an up and a down. And just because you have the first down don't mean you file for divorce. Because they're two separate individuals, you have to learn to become one. That's the purpose of a marriage. Anybody who's been married for 60, 70 years, they'll tell you it was not an easy road. Because someone does one infidelity doesn't mean that you divorce them.
Yeah.
We're all human.
No.
Because it could have been you. Look at you doing No, but I'm saying that's what it is.
We've lost the concept of marriage.
I think that my issue with men and, I mean, maybe not men, but people and what they do is you have to be respectful. I think that these things should never come before your wife if you out there doing anything. But see, sometimes men tend to get involved with women and like you say, infidelity. And then they have their sweethearts being very disrespectful.
Mhm.
And so when it's like that, how do you move beyond that? You know?
You just trust me.
Women, men, all of
Oh, wow.
Oh,
It's
both
It's
sides.
both sides.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
both
we
sides.
lost the concept of marriage though, because,
Yeah.
you know, like back in the
Why
day.
you get married?
They used to marry because it makes sense business wise, like the Prince of Spain would marry the Princess of Austria because they selling oil to each other.
Yes.
But I think now it almost
Just
just
like
like
that. Now
that.
it's
They're
the
getting
same
married
thing
for the
now.
wrong
It
reasons.
happens here too.
Yeah, they getting married for a lot of people getting married for the wrong reasons. Because she was wifey material. She was, I said I love him and she,
But that's how it happens.
or he could take care of me, you know, so.
What will be in the best interest of the family?
Marriage.
I want love, true love.
So you bring the property under the family title?
But the thing about it, like you say, even when it was that way in the past, they still became one.
They became one. At the very end, they're still one. And they would tell you there were infidelities and things that happened, but they stayed as one. Because they always look at what's the bigger picture.
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing is worse than bringing a child up in a home without a father.
Well, nothing is worse than.
And you could see it on the streets today.
I think two things.
The
because
children
I
are
think
missing
sometimes-
fathers.
I think sometimes that if the marriage is very hostile, it's better for you to be separate.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah, that's different. Yeah, that's different. Yeah.
Be in a house and then.
Let the children see and all that.
All that hate, because then they grow up and they do the same thing.
Right.
And some become even more violent.
Right.
So they not only just abuse their spouse, they abuse everybody else around them. And it's very difficult, even if they see a psychologist, to get that out of them. It's ingrained in them.
That's all they know.
They what? They want what?
Once we start talking about divide,
That's good, the boss.
Wait till we do wills. Wait till we do wills. See me on a different topic. So when you have a mortgage, it normally states who pays what in terms of taxes, utilities, and then what are your obligations to the bank. The mortgage document typically includes, but is not limited to, terms and conditions which outline the obligations of the mortgagor to repay the mortgagee on demand, the principal, interest, and any costs relating to the mortgage loan. And a lot of people do not read their mortgage deed. They're so happy they get the mortgage loan, they just sign it. And there are lots of clauses in it.
Well, the clause won't change even if you read it.
No, but you need to
But
be
you
aware.
know.
You need to know. You need to
you should be
know.
like, wait, I ain't signing this.
You need to
Then you
know.
wouldn't get the-
You go to somebody else.
Because when you realize sometimes when you sign a mortgage deed, you have to look at the documents behind. There's certain areas that don't permit you to do certain type of structures or certain types of businesses. And you have to read it. Because next thing you know, you go and decide to build something, you put all this money and you find a BOP stop, it's not allowed. Or you realize when the mortgage deed, the bank says, no, you cannot do this unless you tell me in advance that you're converting from a residential to a commercial property. So you have to read it. The mortgage also provides a detailed description of the property, the duration of the loan, the amount of the monthly payment, the date of the payment, and this is what's funny. They sign the document. The document says it's due on the 12th, but you know you're getting paid on the 28th.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell the people I get paid on the 20th? Why you gonna leave it to the 12th? Start accruing a bunch of interest over the next 15 years. Then when you go, you say, I just got a lump sum set of money. Oh, my mortgage should be 15,000. You go to bank says to you, what? How that happen? Because it was due on the 12th.
And
You
it
was
was
sending
late.
it on the 20th, and not even on the 20th. You probably sending it on the 23rd. And so the accrued interest. And the accrued interest on the whole thing.
And the bank ain't posted till the 30th.
Exactly. So
What
it's
should
not.
do they like out though? Like let's say they say the payment is on the 12th and you get paid on the 20th. Let's say I sign the mortgage today. They'll have my first payment as like December 12th.
Yeah,
But
that's
still
what
it's
I'm
the
saying.
12th.
It's
It's still the
12th.
I can pay October 20th.
No, you late.
You won't do that.
Oh, if it's
No, he's
No.
saying he paying advance, but they're not gonna
No,
start paying
no,
until the
no.
actual payment is, the first
No,
payment
but
is
you
due.
You
would
be
just
late.
have to be on top of it.
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
have to. I know you're paying the 20th, and they pay on the 20th, and then when the 12th comes, I didn't pay for the 12th.
No, but then
And
people
No,
don't
that's
use
No.
that.
You pay the month before.
Pay on the
Yeah,
before.
that's
what-
Yeah.
They're gonna use that money and
Then
okay,
he,
when
then,
I
hold
get
on.
paid.
Thank you.
Hold on. Then he's looking for fraud. Paying in advance. Payment is not due.
No, you just
Let me
put it
move it
on
over to
the-
my friend's account. Who needs his money now? Oh, shoots, I forgot. They calling you, where's your money? Well, I paid it on the 12th, but there's no money here. Yeah, but who wants to go through the hassle? Have the money there for when your money comes until it come out.
Yeah.
It's better to align it. What if one day you can't get there to do
You
it?
change it.
Yeah, you can change it.
Yeah, even after the fact you did.
This is all those things you have to think about. To advise when you go advising.
That's less work for you too.
So those are the things you need to advise people. Send me hints I giving you. I hope you're writing these down. No, be coming back to me later. The mortgage's redemption, and I had in my last class, I had one just like him, asking the same questions, and one just like him, asking the same questions. Both changed their mind. That one rewrote the will. That one decided not to get married. Okay, so move on. It says you have to get an opinion on the title, all of that stuff, which takes a long time. Attesting to the validity of title of the property is issued by an attorney to the mortgagee, and normally it's a licensed institution, like the mortgage co-op. I don't know what they was doing there. It's important that the mortgagee satisfied itself that it is legally in a position to grant the loan. Particular attention is given to the fact that it's not adversely affected by the rights of persons, other persons, especially in light of the provisions of the Inheritance Act. So that's another thing when it's research the title, you gotta make sure the title is free and clear. And I always tell students, whenever you have a family member die, please do a probate. Do not wait until after the person who inherited it dies, and then the next person who would have gotten it dies, and now it's coming to the third person, because all of those have to be probated. And Bahamians like to do that. Someone died, they had a piece of property, and they say, well, don't worry about that, that's mine. He left that to me, right? Now it's their turn. They may either decide they want to mortgage it, or they may be on their deathbed, and they write a will, and they say, okay, I can leave it to her. So then, I pass. She now decides she wants to do something with the property. She didn't probate mine, she didn't probate yours. That's time. That's time. And cost, because you have to pay for that.
Who can probate?
You can do it
Anyone
yourself.
with interest? Or like,
No, there are rules.
oh, okay.
There are rules. There are rules for everything.
Yeah.
If you don't write a will, no oldest child.
No, they changed
No,
it.
no, the child.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So what is it?
The
Spouse.
spouse
The
50%
spouse.
No, it used to
and
be
the
spouse, but
children,
if
the
the
spouse
spouse-
50% and the
Could
children
be any one of the
50%.
children.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Right, so, but I didn't.
It used to be the oldest male child.
Yeah, it used to be the oldest male, not
Yeah.
anymore. Everybody's equal.
Oh, yeah, it used to be the
Yeah. It was.
So the mortgagee protects the security rights over the mortgage property against third parties such as subsequent mortgagees or purchasers. So that's why when you get a mortgage, the first thing the bank does is have it recorded, first in time. So if you went to two different banks and got a mortgage, whoever wins the first one, that's the first mortgage. Have it recorded.
Sometimes it's recording, it's like months, eh?
But it's still whoever's first, because it's recorded in the book. Even though it hasn't been perfected yet, it's in the book that you were there first. It should also be noted that the mortgagee often takes possession of the original title documents, including the original mortgage, after recording at the Registry of Deeds and Documents. Because you know, they keep the original documents and the mortgage is paid in full. And once it's paid in full, they bring evidence that royal property tax are being paid for the duration of the mortgage, and then you pay for the satisfaction to get the original documents back. Mortgages rank in order of priority, what I just told you, according to the date of recording of the mortgage document. When the mortgagor has paid off the loan and the property becomes free of the mortgage granted over it, then the mortgagor has effectively redeemed his property, and then you go through the process. Arguably, the laws governing mortgages in Bahamas have ensured that the mortgagor is protected from any undue advantage by the mortgagee by ensuring that if a transaction is in essence a loan on security, it is treated as a mortgage, notwithstanding its form or the words of the mortgage contract, by ensuring that there are no clogs or fetters. And clogs or fetters means that as long as you have equity within your mortgage, you have the right to borrow against it. That's what you cannot clog it, because they only have a legal interest. The equitable interest is yours. So as long as it's there, you can borrow it. That's why they always call you when they see that your equity is building up. They tell you come and get more money, because they make more money, and then you feel better. What you just going to say?
They don't call you 560.
No, they wouldn't.
They don't.
They wouldn't.
They
They
tell you
don't.
no.
You can
They tell you hey, when you go, they tell you no.
No, but some
It's
banks
for
still
your
give over
benefit.
60 though.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It depends on.
It depends.
Your, like,
If your pension, if you were on a job long enough and your pension from your employer is going to be $1,800 a month, your pension from NIB is going to be $850, and then you have payments coming in from different places. They'll let it do.
But that'll be on a case by case.
Yeah,
basis.
you have to have enough income coming in order for them to lend it to you. Yeah, but it happens. They do lend.
And then it'll be very short time.
Yeah.
No, but talk about NIB. With my employer, they did something, and I paid the NIB, and they said my monthly amount is something like $1,400 or $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
All things being equal, when I get 65.
So that's not bad.
That's what I'm saying, exactly. You can actually enhance your monthly amount. So you can talk to your employer, and if your employer can't do it, you can talk to NIB and see what you may have to contribute privately now.
In order to increase it.
Exactly, because what I'm saying is $850 versus $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you see, when you do NIB, that's if the money is there.
Right.
Then that's a whole other different.
Because when I wasn't able to print it, but I don't know, when we do it, remind me, you need to go to the NIB site and read their last annual report. Their loss on investments. And that's different from the depletion of the whole plan. That's why I say you have to diversify
Yeah.
for retirement.
So
And
why
you
they
have
don't
to
just
scale
update
back
it
now.
for us?
No, you can't stop taking from you. They need that.
They can pay the pensioners
Because the
now.
pay pensioners now. And there are a lot of pensioners now who've never contributed.
Right.
So like if you never contribute, you'll get like a.
You get the
a
minimum,
small,
but all of that still adds up.
Yeah, it's monthly.
And then we have a lot of foreigners who lived here, who contributed, who live abroad.
Yeah.
And all of those
I
are
think
people
they
that
was
getting
looking
pensions.
Oh,
at
yeah.
doing something different with
And they
that.
look forward to their
Oh,
pensions.
yes.
I'm not sure they contributed, so you can.
Mhm.
I go every 6 months to
Mhm.
do that,
You have to
yeah.
do it. So we stop here? We talk about trusts next week?
Yes.
Okay. You finish this?
Nice class.
Yes.
Very enjoyable.
Come back next week. We'll do this again.
I'm welcome to come back next week.
Yeah.
So next week, if we're fast enough, we'll finish this and then we'll start talking about wills.
Really?
Yeah.
You
You go what? You go what?
No, it sounds like Will's just gonna give me a headache.
Some people it does. Some people it doesn't. But it's another tool that you use in terms of advising people,
Yeah.
okay? So we'll do two parts of it. We'll do the writing of the will and then we'll do the process. Risa, you had any questions? Let's see if they don't want. Risa?
Rissa.
Rissa, what's Rissa? You hear me calling her Risa? Tell me she named Rissa?
Marissa.
Good night. Where's my register? Oh, I see
right
it.
there.
I see it. That's by her. She missed plenty tonight, but she'll catch up next time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good class.
You're welcome. Good night. Good night.
See you later.
See you later. Oh, go ahead. Someone else was missing because there's an extra one.
Yeah, the guy.
And the young lady from RBC also with the
Yeah,
short
two
hair.
of them.
Yeah, because it's two.
Yeah, two of them. Two from RBC.
But remind me next week. I'll put them in here because if I put them out there, you know what that means. This one, oh, this one is two-sided, this one is one-sided. Okay, so I'll put the two of these together on a clip. Okay, thank you.
Good night.
Good night. You had plenty books.
Yes, yes. They work in a school. They have a lot of stuff.
Oh, your school stuff in there. Okay. Okay, Juju.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You know she couldn't have said that to me. You know I've always remember that.
That's one of my nicknames.
Okay, good.